want to say to ourselves there is no reason why other countries can build high-speed rail lines and we can't.
President Obama in Tampa, Florida, pitching his latest scheme to create jobs, an $8 billion high-speed rail system. But that quote shows exactly why the president may have it all wrong. The question is not if we can build a European rail-style system, but should we build such a system, as our lovely coyote on the train proves. In Portland's light rail system, if Americans prefer cars, there's nobody except wildlife left to ride in the trains, no matter how much progressives push the costly boondoggles. Joining us now, Matthew Vadum. He is senior editor at the Capitol Research Center. So, you know, I love trains. They're very sexy to ride on. They're wonderful things to have. But if the people prefer their cars, the only way you're going to get them into the trains is by forcing them out of their cars, right?
Well, I love trains too, David. Ever since I was a little kid, I would play with my HO set and use it all the time until I had to be forced to go to bed. But the problem is that liberals and environmentalists have been obsessed for decades with controlling human behavior, and they want to force people to use public transit. And in this case, the latest iteration of it is this idea of building all sorts of high-speed rail lines all over the country. Right. And as you said, this is a country of people who love their cars, rugged individualists.
Well, let's talk about what has been done,
rugged as individualists. They want to be able to
but
go
Matthew,
where they want to go when they want to go.
Specific examples of where it's been done. I mean, it's being done in Portland and Minneapolis and a lot of places. Usually what happens is there's a startup capital, either from the federal government or from the state, $1 billion, whatever it is. They start the thing, and it ends up costing a lot more than that, so there are vast stretches of it that are never completed. Then it is underused by people who prefer riding in their cars, and it loses money. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. These projects almost invariably turn into massive white elephants because people want to be able to go where they want to go, when they want to go. They don't want to have to wait for a train, a government train, to take them to their destination. So these systems often languish. The projects always run over budget, and they always have to be bailed out by governments at all levels.
Surprise, surprise, a government project being over budget, and it takes longer than it was supposed to. And again, it is underutilized. I think the main thing is the fact that people don't want to get out of their cars and into the trains. And when that happens, you have no incentive to complete the projects, and they just sit there dormant. A waste of taxpayers' money, another waste of taxpayers. And jobs, it doesn't, I mean, initially there was a job spurt in terms of putting down the first lines, but eventually, you know, there's nobody to hire.
Well, I think the fact that the projects that President Obama wants to fund with stimulus money, I think the fact that he wants stimulus money to go to them is telling in and of itself, because the fact that he wants to use stimulus money, you know, when you want to use stimulus money, basically you create a rebuttable presumption that the project is not viable, that it is going to fail. Because if there were a market for the product, for the services, then free enterprise, then companies would want to raise capital and invest. So basically, stimulus money, in a sense, guarantees failure.
Well, not only that, but I think, again, the key is that the only way to get people out of their cars and into the trains is to force them out of their cars and into the train. And eventually, these projects won't go through, or there will be an attempt to use coercion to get people out, either by much higher taxes or some kind of regulation.
Much higher taxes on gasoline would be one way of doing it. The projects may indeed get built, but the question is at what cost? High-speed rail, maglev, like magnetic levitation rail systems, are incredibly expensive. And, you know, even for that short line that they want to run, I think it's between Tampa and Orlando, that the president endorsed recently. What was the estimate on that? $8 billion?
That was just to get started,
It's not even that great a distance.
To get started. Matthew Vadum, we got to leave it at that. Capitol Research Center senior fellow, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Coming up on